All right, so let us continue with the second subdivision of poetry, which is narrative poetry. So definitely narrative poetry is way longer than the lyrical poetry, but somehow could actually be of equivalent length when it comes to dramatic poetry. So if in lyrical poetry, the main point is just to express one's emotion and feelings, to pour out whatever you have in your mind, in your heart. In narrative poetry, the main point is to actually narrate a story. But of course, it's not just an ordinary story. That is a story that somehow represent the culture of a certain era or of a certain practices and tradition of people that we do not know now. Okay, so let us try to read the definition of a narrative poetry. So in verse, it gives verbal representation of sequence, of connected. So meaning to say every events, every scenarios in a narrative poetry are all connected. So there are no scenes, there are no scenarios or events in the narrative poetry that is irrelevant or that is not essential. So it propels character through a plot. So it is always told by a narrator, and subject may vary from a normal person to a hero. Okay, so later you will know why um, there is still a narrator, and of course, there are a lot of subject and characters that are involved in a narrative poetry. Okay, so I'm not sure if you are familiar with this one of, of Brad Pitt, Troy, but actually Troy is not a person, FYI. That is actually a city in Anatolia or in Turkey. Okay, so if you're going to look back at history, you would know that aside from Persia, aside from uh, during the time of Alexander the Great, during the Macedonian era, okay, so Anatolia or Turkey is one of the strongest colonizers, okay, of different countries in Asia. Okay, so epic deals with various subjects such as myths, because it always involves gods, heroic legends, legends that are now regarded as before they believed that those people actually existed, but now they are only regarded as legend. Okay, so it incorporates also histories. Okay, and then religious tales, animal stories, because of course animals in epic play a lot of symbolism, or philosophical or moral theories. So most epic consist of legendary narratives about the glorious, okay, glorious deeds of their heroes. And it steers the spirit of the warriors to heroic actions by praising their exploits and those of their illustrious ancestors. So, by assuring a long and glorious recollection of their fame, and by supplying them with models of ideal hero behavior. So, why is epic important? Why is epic epic? Okay, well, if you're going to look at the epic version of Philippines, aside from it is highly Christianized, so there are a lot of scenarios in most epics in the Philippines that actually show or illustrate practices by Catholic or by Christian. Okay, and aside from that, it is also to call this one highly indigenous in nature, especially those epics that are written in or that are produced in Luzon. Okay, by the way, there are actually two classification of an epic. So if there is no fixed or certain author, we call that one as folk epic. Folk epic. So no specific, let's say, poet. But if there is one, let's say, the national epic of Greece, which is Iliad and Odyssey by Homer, the epic of national epic of England, Beowulf. Okay, so Beowulf is actually an example of folk epic since there is no fixed uh, yeah, there is no fixed author for that. And then if an epic story has its author, most likely these are the modern, okay, or well recorded epic stories. Okay, so we call that one as literary epic. So just like with, again, Iliad and Odyssey, okay, by Homer. And yeah, we may also add the national epic of Egypt. So it's Gilgamesh. Okay, so we have Iliad and Odyssey. We also have Nibelungensund in Germany, and then the Divine Comedy of Italy. But of course, in Italy, it's actually Aeneid. Okay, uh, who's the? I forgot the author of Aeneid. Well, anyway, maybe later I'll try to search who is again the. Yeah, it's actually Virgil. Okay, so this is the national epic of Italy. Okay, Aeneid or Aeneid. But actually, Virgil is a fan of Homer. Okay, so okay, going back to the question, why is epic an epic? Okay, let's try to look at the following factors in which we have to consider why epic is such a good read. Okay, so first, of course, we have here the legendary hero. Well, if you notice, most literary works before, okay, revolve in the life of a man. Well, actually, that's why history is called history, but it's more on his story and not her story. So that's why stories are rooted from the experiences, okay, from the adventure of man. So that's why it is his story. And to make it short, it's history. Okay, so what is this legendary hero? Okay, of course, they are regarded as hero for several things because of the glory they brought. Okay, so it's about glory, it's about their uh, let's say stature, their physical stature. Well, they are really strong. Okay, and also because of what else? I'm not sure how you call it, but because of these, uh, because of their parents, let's say most of legendary hero and epic are actually demigod. So when we say demigod, that is actually half man or half human. So that's half human, half god. When it comes to power, they do not actually have the power that we know in sci-fi movies, in anime. They do not have this Kamehame wave. They cannot actually um, use a wand to throw an abracadabra. Okay, so what they have is their physical strength. They are really sturdy. They really are strong. Okay, this zero, and they are really smart. Okay, so as a leader or someone who actually leads uh, a warriors, you do not only have to be physically strong. You also have to be mentally prepared, mentally ready, and of course, you should be a ruler, okay, who could actually dominate your subordinate in a way that they do not only regard your strength physically, but also they have high regard or they highly admire, okay, the train of your thoughts when it comes to strategizing in a war, or in everything that you do for your country, for your state, or for your group. Okay, so legendary hero, aside from these following factors, definitely it revolves around their lives. So actually there are a lot of heroes in an epic, but you would know that it actually focuses on a single hero when the twist of events point out or point back to all the circumstances that before it does not make sense, but as you go along with the reading material, you would discover that everything that happened to that particular uh, hero makes sense because it is connected with the other part of the scenarios or events. What I mean is, let's say in Iliad, okay, in Iliad, there are actually a lot of main characters. So there could be Achilles, and then there's, of course, Odysseus, there's Agamemnon. Okay, but in Iliad, the major or the legendary hero is actually Achilles. Okay, now, of course, with the name itself, but in Odyssey, it changed. So that is actually Odysseus. In Iliad, there are actually two legendary heroes in the making. It so happened that at the end of the day, the story itself focuses on Achilles because Odysseus has another role to play in the second part of the epic. Okay, and also legendary hero always have to make this difficult choice. Okay, so they are given this choice if they would want to live uh, shorter or live longer. So, what is the choice that is actually chosen by the hero? Okay, so there is actually a condition. Okay, and what is that condition? Okay, so if let's say, the legendary hero chose to live a shorter life, and most of the time, generally, this is the choice, okay, selected by the legendary hero. So, live shorter life, but name remain all throughout ages. So, meaning to say, there is an element of permanence. Okay, or live longer, but your name will live like a dust. Nothing. Okay. So why is it? Well, actually, the first choice is very enticing because, of course, legendary hero or characters in epics are actually after with popularity. They're after with power. They are very egotistical. Okay, so they are really prideful. So the they really value the value that is anchored or that is connected with their names. So most likely it doesn't matter if they live a shorter life as long as their names are being glorified, being worshipped the same way that people worshipped or regarded gods. Okay, even if they're only a demigod. Okay, so why they actually live a shorter life. Aside from the choice that they made, it is also destined. Okay, it is already prophesied by the oracle that no matter what what the legendary hero, okay, does in order to prevent from that kind of death, okay, it will happen. So meaning to say the legendary hero cannot escape his fate. So it's actually the it is the fate, okay, that dictate what will happen to the legendary hero. So actually, without even choosing if the legendary hero would want to live a shorter life but will be glorified all throughout the time, still the legendary hero will automatically live a shorter life. That's why they have to seize the day. They have to maximize or to make most of the time to gather a lot of uh, glorious deeds that they could do in order for people to actually remember them. Okay, so what else? We have here valor. Well, valor is already explained as strength. Okay, so it is actually innate to the legendary hero. Not all characters in epic are actually strong. There are only selected few. Okay, and then we have the god's interference. Actually, this epic is played mostly of gods. It is through the influence of gods and goddesses that the story propel or that the story moves. So how is God an essential element in an epic? Okay, so God and goddesses actually the one decide what will happen to the characters, especially to the legendary hero. If a god favors the legendary hero, then most likely the hero will prevail, the hero will win the war. But if there is another god or a goddess who is not in favor of the legendary hero, then most likely the the opposing god or goddess would do something to prevent the legendary hero to to be triumphant in whatever endeavor that he is doing or that he is venturing. Okay, that's why God's interference is always essential or important in the story. Okay, and when a god tries to, because of course in an epic, it is a rule that gods and goddesses cannot directly influence, take note, directly influence the life of the characters. Meaning to say, gods, even though they are gods and goddesses, they do not have the power to directly talk to the characters, to directly kill the character because it will bounce back. Okay, so it's like it's against the law of nature. Okay, so that's why there is the god's interference is being delivered through this Latin term called, wait, okay, Deus ex machina. So in English, it only means gods in the machine. Okay, so Deus ex machina. So what is that Deus ex machina or gods in the machine? Okay, actually, that Deus ex machina is also applied to us. Okay, remember when you are praying or when someone preaches, well, you could actually read it in a lot of inspirational materials or inspirational works that God does not answer our prayer directly. So meaning to say, when we pray, God does not respond directly to us. So God responds in a different, in a lot of ways or in a numerous ways that we do not notice that he is actually responding. So meaning to say, God is using an instrument. It could be through a person, it could be through a situation, it could be through a material things that we have, okay, in order to respond or to address our concern, our prayer. So if you pray that you would want to be rich, okay, I want to be rich. So there are a lot of ways in which you could actually be rich. If you start a business, then most likely God will bless your business, and that could be a way for you to be rich. Or um, if you are joining, or if you are into gambling, like, well, lotto is actually a form of gamble, right? Okay, so you could actually win the mega jackpot lotto only if you are actually um, competing, or if you are betting for the numbers that you've been carrying, or that you've been nursing for how many years, for how many months or weeks. Okay, or it could be through the situation you would want to be known. Okay, so you join a competition, and of course you win the competition, and a lot of people will take notice of your name. Okay, so that is what we call God's interference. Okay, but of course in an epic, most likely this Deus ex machina is illustrated in a characters. Like the characters would help, would assist the legendary hero. Let's say the hero is in uncompromising situation, or the hero is the underdog. Okay, so he is about to be killed by someone, by the enemy, and then all of a sudden, a friend or a best friend or a person who is actually not in the scenario, in the initial part of the story, suddenly appear and then help the legendary hero. So of course God do not want to let the hero being defeated. That's why God uses another instrument uh, in order to deliver the, I mean, in order to prevent, sorry, to prevent the unfortunate event that could happen to the legendary hero. Okay, and also we have here epic style. So for epic style, most epic foreign epics, they have this style called in medias res. Okay, so in medias res, or in English, in the middle of. Well, foreign epics actually always start the story at the middle of the whole story, just like in Iliad and in Odyssey. Actually, in Iliad, it is actually the Trojan War is actually a 10-year war. But then the story does not start at the first year of the war. Rather, okay, so Trojan War started, the story of the Trojan War started at the 10th year of the war. And of course, through flashback, okay, things are being explained why the war started, what are, okay, why the war started, or what are the reasons that ignite the war, and what happened to some characters in the war, and if the characters from the beginning of the story are still alive in the 10th year of the Trojan War. So, well, in Filipino version, it does not follow the same epic style, because like Biag ni Lamang, it start as how we normally start a story with the exposition. It begins with with the parents of Lamang getting married, and then after a year conceiving a child, or I mean after a month conceiving a child, and of course Lamang is born, and then Lamang venture in his journey, okay, to take revenge on these people who beheaded his father. Okay, so unlike in foreign epics, the story started in the middle, but in Filipino version, it's just the normal beginning. Okay, we start at the very beginning of the story itself. Okay, so there are multiple settings since epic is actually long and it takes a lot of scenes in different places, so that's why it has multiple setting. And omniscient, okay, when we say omniscient, it only means that it's all okay. Is that correct? Omniscient, all knowing, omni, yeah, kulang pa. Omniscient. Okay, so all knowing. So meaning to say the narrator of the epic, okay, knows everything. Okay, so the author does not necessarily be the character within the story. It is entirely different because the normal stories that we know today uses first person point of view, first person point of view limited, first person point of view participant, observer. Okay, but for this one, it's third person point of view omniscient. And of course, the narrator could change different places, could switch different characters in which it could actually picture everything. Okay, and then we also have, so I hope for epic that is clear now. Then we also have ballad. So to make things short, in ballad, it's more on if we have legendary hero in an epic as the main character, in ballad it's more on just a normal person. Okay, a person who tries to venture in different places, someone who would want uh, to discover a lot of things. So it's more on soul searching, literally soul. It could be soul, nag-iisa, or soul na yung soul mo, espiritu. Soul searching. Because characters in ballad cannot contain in one place. Okay, they would want to widen their horizon when it comes to life, when it comes to customs, when it comes to socialization. Okay, so of course, by venturing in a journey, there are a lot of risks that you may encounter, especially when it comes to race, when it comes to religion, when it comes to the things that you want. Okay, but of course, in ballad, characters are singing all throughout, singing and dancing all throughout the story. And lastly, we have ballad. I mean, sorry, metrical romance. So in Filipino, we do not have ballad. Okay, the ballad that we have in Filipino are actually kind of song, but not a narrative poetry. And then we have metrical romance. So in Filipino, we have two kinds of metrical romance, that is awit and corrido. Okay, I'm not sure if there are still people who could actually sing Imong Adaron and Florante at Laura. Actually, they are meant to be sung. Okay, Florante at Laura and Ibong Adarna. Okay, so they're not meant to be just read plainly. So it should be sung. So there's actually I think a pattern. I'm not sure if that's 1 4 2 4 3 4 4 4 in your music class. Okay. So well anyway, it the both awit and corrido may revolve in 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 a similar theme, just like with courtly love. Okay, but of course the objective of presenting the story itself is different, because when it comes to corrido, it's more on just an entertaining, just a form of entertainment, because corrido involves a lot of fantasy like events. Okay, so too good to be true scenarios, uh, by which awit is different because uh, awit is a metaphorical analogy of what is being experienced in a society. So there is colonization, there is corruption, there is um, horrible horrible things committed by officials, government officials, and then of course the oppression, depression, oppression, okay, favoritism, injustices. Okay, so there are underlying, okay, reasons that are presented in awit. Unlike in corridor that it's more on just, well, it also present the human nature, but in a way that it does not, the tone of corridor is not serious in nature, unlike with awit. So other difference of these two is actually the structure. So for Florante at Laura, it contains lalabindalawahin, meaning to say 12 syllables in one line. So all the words combined, it should only compose of 12 syllables. And then for Ibong Adarna is actually a corrido. And then Florante at Laura is an example of awit. So in corrido, it contains wawaluhin or 8 syllables. Uh, I mean, 8 syllables line. Okay? So you may try to count, no, to make sure. Let's say for Florante at Laura, we have sa, loob, at labas ng bayan kong sawi. So that's 12 syllables. And then we have in Ibong Adarna, habang kaniyang binabagtas. So again, that is also 8 syllables. Okay? So I guess that is clear with you. Okay? So we'll proceed now with dramatic poetry.